Let's just jump right into it. So to begin, let's actually go through how the Death Note works. So it's pretty simple. The main rule is, when you write a person's name in a Death Note, they die. But there are many sub-rules. For instance, when writing a name, you need to have the person's face in mind. Moreover, if you wish to be specific on how that person dies, you need to write their name and how they die exactly. If you don't, then the cause will be heart attack. Those are the main rules when it comes to Death Note. So when it comes to turning Death Note into a game mechanic, I think it should follow these main rules. I thought of 4 main genres that I think it would work pretty well in. And by the end, I'll actually rate which one I think is the best. The first is fighting. So how would the Death Note work as a game mechanic in a fighting game? I think Kira is actually a character in a fighting game, but let's forget that for a second. I think as a mechanic, the Death Note works better as a finishing move, or like an ultimate move. So I think it should be designed that way as well. The way I see it, it would be very unfair if the Death Note could be used immediately. So I think that the best way to balance it would be that you need to actually charge your gauge to use it. You can call it your inspection gauge, and it's used to actually figure out more about the person. And then after enough time has passed, if your gauge is fully loaded, you can then use the Death Note. So after use, you write your opponent's name in the book. I believe a good way to balance this even further is so that once written down, the opponent will die after 30 seconds. The balancing here is that with this half a minute, the opponent has time to actually fight back and kill the user. And if they do, they win, obviously. But if they don't, they die. I see it more as like a final resort move, or like a ultimate finisher. So it can be used very often. I think the gauge should be only filled up after 1 round. And your opponent must be pretty low on health to begin with. Frankly, I think this would be actually a really great mechanic to use, as it would create stakes for both the opponent and yourself. So for fighting games, I would say the Death Note works with a score of 8 out of 10. It's pretty good. The next is RPGs. So how would the Death Note work as an RPG? I think it would be way too overpowered as a tool. So maybe it could be like a secret weapon you find in the post-game or in the final moments of the game. It could be fun, but I think maybe if you want it to be a more of a common use item, I can think of it in 2 main ways. Either firstly, the book works as a skill tree, meaning that upgrade it more and more to make it as powerful as it needs to be. So at first, maybe it only works to hurt people and not actually kill them, or maybe the time frame between writing and death is much longer, like 2 minutes. And as you upgrade it, you're able to make it much more efficient. So by the end, it is a surefire kill, and the timeline will be much shorter. I think the second is much closer to the idea that it is a secret weapon, that being that the weapon works as it does in the anime, but it needs far more prerequisites. So for example, if you're fighting an opponent, you need to actually know their real name. So if you're fighting a goblin, for example, you need to figure out what their name is first, and then be able to kill them. This can be anyways, maybe there's like a second mechanic where you can actually interrogate them. I was thinking maybe something from Persona, where you're able to interrogate demons to either recruit them, but in this scenario, the interrogation is made to actually find out more about them and learn their names. Once you do that, you're able to kill them. I do like this idea, however, I think that perhaps it could use some work. It's not perfect, obviously. There are some problems with it. Mainly that for the first option, it wouldn't really be a Death Note. It would be something else completely if it's too weak at first. So I'm not completely sure. I think for a score, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. The third game genre is Battle Royale, which sounds odd, but hear me out. The idea is it's kind of like Fortnite, where everyone starts in a massive area, so like a city for example, and every single player has Death Note. And to win, you need to actually kill every other person. I think there's another game that's similar in a way. It's like a mystery game where you need to figure out who has the Death Note. But in that game, I believe that only one player can use it and everyone else is just like a detective. But in this version, everyone has a Death Note. And on top of that, everyone receives a name. The name is random. Moreover, the book works as implied. However, it only has a few charges, meaning you can only kill a few people per round. Let's say like 5. And the point of the game is to kill every other person, mainly by figuring out what their name is. and defending yourself. This can like create a bunch of new diverging mechanics. So for example, if it's a battle royale, people can like talk to each other, and the point would be that through communication you can actually figure out what other people's names are and then use that to advance further. You can make teams work alone, and I think here is where you actually see a sub rule I haven't mentioned that much so far, that being the ability to decide how people die. I think this would be really fun as a game mechanic, but it is very complex. I'm not sure how it even like work or if it would be balanced enough. There could be like other ways to do it. For example, something closer to the actual Death Note game I talked about before. But I like the idea that Death Note is actually a tool that everyone can use. And then the actual weapon is information. I am just not sure how this would actually be implemented in the long run, or if it would be too complicated. So for that, I'll put it at a 5 out of 10. The last category is roguelikes. I know that's a very broad term. There are many types of roguelikes, but the idea is that every single round, there's a sense of random generation, some turn-based mechanics, managing resources, and of course permadeath. So from here, we can create our own kind of Death Note roguelike, where the objective is kill light. But to do so, you need to gain more information or get more powerful by killing other people. Here's one possible example where it is very turn-based, where you only have the book, you can write down people's names, and every person you kill gives you some kind of like point or experience that you can then use to make the book even better or gain more information. And through that loop, you're supposed to be able to get to Light, figure out his name, and kill him. But the enemies can figure out who you are through time and eventually take you down, where you then need to begin anew. That is just one idea. I do like it a lot actually. It's a bit rough, but I think the main core mechanics still work and shine through the genre itself. The loop could become a bit more predictable or not unique enough, so there must be some sort of way to make it a lot more unique with every single round. Either experience or points can be more varied, or maybe the way you gain information could be varied too. I'm not sure, but I really like it actually. And I think for that reason, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. So in the end, fighting games and roguelikes are both the best contenders here, but only one can be the best. And I personally think it's fighting games. Mainly because I believe that the loop of trying to defeat your opponent before they kill you makes for a far more stake-heavy match that would be perfect for fighting games, especially for like big tournaments. So yeah, that's my ranking. I think the best game for a Death Note mechanically would be a fighting game. But what do you guys think? If you have other ideas for TV mechanics in games, let me know in the comments. See you next time. Peace.